So, what is actually raising your consciousness? That's the topic for today. And I'm going to go into a couple different versions. And I think, again, as with everything, the meaning of the words is different for everybody based on the past experiences that they have, the amount of awareness that they have. All of this has a factor into it. So, on a personal level, and I'll be reading, I got some notes here, so I'll be reading off those notes. On a personal level, it's understanding how every single one of your thoughts, your beliefs, and your patterns that you run at a subconscious level are creating the reality that you experience. This is where meditation comes in very handy. In the meditation, when you slow down the mind, when you calm the mind, when you're not stuck in this reactive pattern, but you're able to notice the thoughts, the patterns, the beliefs without judgment, without attachment to them. You notice those thoughts, patterns, beliefs. You can decide, is this true for me or not? Do I want to believe this or not? Do I want this to control how I experience reality or not? That's kind of the first step. That's the personal step. This is the introduction into consciousness. Again, from my perspective, meditation is that first step to get out of the reactive mind and into the mind that just responds or that notices, that begins to notice the thoughts that are creating the reality in your in your being, in how you experience reality. So as you start to go through that process, you start to understand that your subconscious mind, these beliefs that are below your awareness, are often, so often creating that reality. This is shadow work. This is, kind of going into your subconscious mind so that you can understand what patterns are running your experience. What traumas have caused these beliefs and patterns to show up in your life over and over and over again. And then you start to come up with this belief system that you are above, you are outside of those beliefs, that those things happened to this one personal human, this experience that you're having on an individual level, but that those don't have to define you, that they can actually be stepping stones to uncovering what your magic is, what your abilities are, like who you can fundamentally be when you start to remove these subconscious patterns and belief systems from your life. And then as you continue to journey even further, it's starting to see the world, the external world, as it truly is, instead of this projection of what you believe it to be. Some people are believing that the external world is some massive negative experience that is geared to control you and hold you down. Other people view it as a world where anything is possible and you can become whatever you want. And both of these are true. It really just depends on your consciousness, your understanding. But as you go deeper and deeper, you start to realize that it is just a reflection, that external world is just a reflection of the internal world. It's just a reflection of your internal beliefs and patterns. So many people go through the world and they're looking to the external world for validation of their beliefs or maybe negation of their beliefs. But the beliefs are just showing up in your external world based on the internal systems that you have, the internal patterns, thoughts, beliefs that you are experiencing. And as soon as you start to realize that the external world is a reflection of the internal world, things begin to shift because once you have that power to, instead of thinking you have to go out and fix the external world, you can work on the internal world. You can work on something that you have agency over. The only thing that you have agency over, like the Stoics talk about this all the time, the only thing you have agency over is how you respond to the external world. And as you respond in a better way to the external world, let's say without reactivity and just with acceptance of what it is, you stop fighting. You stop giving that external world energy. You stop allowing the external world to dictate how you feel on the internal world. And that fundamentally shifts you into experiencing the internal world reflecting that external world. And this it lays the groundwork for transformation of both the individual and the collective world, because this collective world that we are experiencing, these collective patterns that we are experiencing, they are stemming from all the past experiences that you've had, not only you as an individual, but the past experiences that your family has, the past experiences that your society has, the past experiences that all of humanity has. And this is that last step where you start to realize that there's two ways to create the future. You can either create the future based on the past experiences that you've had, or you use your human imagination to create a future that is independent from those past experiences, that is transcending the past experiences. This is the idea of transformation. Transformation comes from stopping the creation of the future from past experiences and starting to create the future from imagination of a better reality, of a better future, of a better way of doing things. And because the collective reality is created from the summation of the totality of everyone that's experiencing, co-creating that reality, whichever group, whichever bubble, whichever reality is more focused, more aligned, more able to get people to follow it in a either subconscious or conscious way, that's the reality that is created. So you get to choose which reality you would like to be creating. If you're creating reality from the past, from fear, from doubt, from shame, if that is the primary vibration that you are bringing to the world, and again, I'm not negating, I'm not saying that this is an easy process, but the more you become aware of how you are creating in the world, the more you become aware of, am I creating from past experience, or am I creating from imagination of the infinite possibilities that are available to us? You begin to understand where you are. Which future are you feeding into? Which future are you beginning to create? And this is where people in the consciousness experience talk about these two shifting timelines, and it's a good representation. The people that are creating from imagination, from an almost exorbitant amount of belief in a future that there is no data for, there is no experience for, those people are creating a world based on their imagination and the future that is possible. And then there's the people that are creating from the past, from the fear, from the doubt, from the way that things have always been, instead of believing that there's a possibility to change, to shift, to move, to overcome even these, what sometimes feel like inescapable systems that have been created on the planet, that have been created in reality, that have been created in the human experience, these overwhelmingly dark systems. But people who put their energy, put their focus, put their intent, put their intention on, put their attention on, people that are putting their attention on these systems, these dark systems, and saying, how do we overcome this? How do we get out of this? Well, you have to start to tune into your imagination. How do you overcome it? You create a parallel system. You create a system that is outside or around or that moves away from that system. And then you start to get people to believe in that system. And I think this is where we are right now in humanity. There are two different systems that are being created. There's the system that stems from the desire to do things the way that they've always been done. And that system is starting to fall apart. And then there's the future, the visioning of the future that, is take the iPhone, for instance. Steve Jobs imagined this uh, device that could play music, that could play all your music anytime that you wanted. It was all in your pocket. And you could communicate with anybody across the world anytime that you wanted. And you could find information, all the information available on the internet you could have right in your pocket. He imagined this before anybody else could really see that future. So much so that the first version of the iPhone, people were like, what is this? What do you mean you're going to have your music and your phone together all at the same time? People didn't even realize that they needed it. They didn't have the imagination enough to believe that they could have all of this. And this is the prompt. This is the space for you to reflect. How are you creating your future? Are you creating your future from past experiences, from past beliefs, from traumatic experiences that you've had, or are you creating the future with a belief, with an imagination of something that maybe you've never even seen before? But when you calm down, when you slow down, when you get out of that reactive overthinking mind, that subtle future starts to become clear, starts to coalesce, and then that subtle future starts to manifest in your life. It starts to show up in your life in ways that you would never expect, in ways that you never thought were possible. And then as you finally get to this point where you start to see how things actually work, you really, really, really start to understand how reality actually works. Because what we were told when we were younger on how reality works, like you go out, you work hard, you get a job, you work for 30 years, then you retire. That's life. That's what life is. Raise a family, take care of the elderly. That is all that life is about. And, I'm not saying that that's not. It's very important to have all of those experiences in your reality. But that's not necessarily how reality functions. Reality functions as a mirror for the vibration, the totality of the awareness, beliefs, thoughts, patterns that you have. It's a mirror for those. That's just how reality works. And of course, there's a collective reality. So the summation of everybody's thoughts, patterns, beliefs, identities, the summation of all of that creates this collective reality, this collective consciousness that we're all experiencing. But, and this is the big key, that collective consciousness does not have to control or overpower your internal consciousness. The thoughts, patterns, beliefs of everybody else in the world does not have to control how you believe, see, feel, experience that external world. And the more that you have this belief in your creation, your imagination, your ability to imagine the future, well, people feel that and they start to come along with that. And that's where sharing, creating, manifesting, building, doing all of this stuff in the world is going to manifest, is going to bring in the future that you believe is possible. And you start to see how the stronger that you have this internal belief, the stronger that you impart it on the external world, and the more that that becomes the collective awareness of everything. That how I like to imagine it is there's an infinite number of potential realities that you can tune into every single day. And your frequency, your vibration is the tuning mechanism. So the more that you raise your awareness, the more that you raise your consciousness, the more that you raise your vibration, again, not good or bad. It's just the more that you raise your vibration, the more that you have an effect on the material world, the more that you transition into these parallel realities where the things that you believe, the imagination that you're experiencing, is the reality on that collective consciousness, on that external world. And it's the vibration, it's the frequency that you're tuning into that dictates that. So as I wrap this video up, I had a really, again, it's just a fun experience for me to kind of share these ideas and to, again, the more I feel that I share these ideas, the more that they go out into the collective consciousness and the more that they are able to be filtered out into the world so that the reality that I see, this reality of unity consciousness on the planet, not only on the planet, but across the galaxy, this idea of unity consciousness is the reality that is coming into fruition, at least for me. And again, always use your judgment, use your intuition. If this message feels bad in your body, take what feels good, leave what doesn't. This is not meant, the reality that I'm moving towards and the reality that you're moving towards may be differing in vibration, in outcome. And, from my perspective, we all have come here to learn specific lessons about who we truly are. So I always ask you, use your discernment. Make sure that you discern what information feels good to you, feels true to you, and use that. And yeah, comment. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know where you disagree with this. Let me know if anything hit you particularly strongly. I love getting feedback, having conversations, communicating with people. And if you want to see anything on the channel, on the show, if you want to have an interactive part of this evolution in human consciousness, I'm always open to that. I would love to share and be able to share with others, answer questions, anything along those lines. So as we go out, as we have a wonderful rest of our week, I just thank you for listening. And I hope that you got something positive out of this message. So to everybody, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you all next week.